أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد أشرف الخلق وسيد المرسلين وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. أما بعد, session 2 is titled The Inner Dimensions of Worship, part 1. What I'm going to do is, in this book, I'm actually not going to stick with the page-by-page order, as we said. I'm going to give you a dose of chapter 1 in this session, and then we'll take a break from it and give you a dose of chapter 2. And then we're going to, in the third session, يعني. And then in the fourth session, we'll come back to chapter 1 again and give you the second dose of what I have there for you, inshallah. That way, we keep everything fresh. We don't feel overwhelmed. Like I said, we're not under any pressure to finish all the contents of this book. The whole idea is to get a dose, get a taste, get exposed to something, learn a few really good things, and become a better person through it. So I know in the last intensive that we had, one of the things that you guys gave feedback on was it was a ton of information in a very short amount of time, and I was trying to get through it a lot. So we're going very fast, right? So it's better to learn and benefit than get through more information and not learn very much. And inshallah, the next intensive is going to be a 2-day intensive. That's what I'm planning for, inshallah. So we'll try something like that out with this same schedule, 12 to 5, just so it's not too much in one day, 12 to 5, and over the span of 2 days. And the date I'm thinking of, just so you know, is the beginning of June, June 1st and 2nd. June 1st and 2nd is the day I'm planning the next intensive. Still haven't finalized the subject. Nonetheless, during the break, one of the brothers said if you could speak more about the life of Imam Ghazali and how critical a figure he was in the past. And my response was, because of the time constraint, we don't really have enough time to actually highlight how important a person he was in our past. Look, there's scholars and then there's scholars. Not all scholars are the same. That sounds, why did you say there's scholars and then there's scholars? Meaning, not all scholars are the same. Right? There are people who Allah Azza wa Jal has sanctioned in the history of our ummah to do such great things at critical times that no one else could ever fit their shoes. You know, Imam Ghazali, who was described as Hujjatul Islam, the proof of Islam, is indeed one of those individuals. And there's many others throughout the Islamic timeline who fit similar shoes, like Imam Abu Hanifa, who is described as the greatest Imam, Al-Imam Al-A'zam, or Imam Al-Shafi'i, or the likes of Imam Ahmad, or so on and so forth. There's figures in our past that played a really critical role for the direction of the ummah altogether, right? So this is important to note about Imam Ghazali. There's a lot of lectures out there, and maybe perhaps one time we can dedicate a series to these luminaries of our past, where we learn a little bit more about their lives, right? These slides, again, I skipped over some. This one emphasizes some of the things. What is the Quranic discourse on knowledge? Look, you see it in the slide right there. Quranic discourse on knowledge. Slide number, that is. If you're watching this later on, Sister Noor will get it on the thing for you. On the right side of this, you see a bunch of verses. Every single page in the Quran, brothers and sisters, has an emphasis on observation, reflection, contemplation in some way or another. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, do they not see? Do they not know? Do they not travel and traverse the land? Do they not listen? Right? In that are signs for people of intellect, right? And so on and so forth. Many verses. Part of this Quranic discourse on knowledge is Allah tells us that those who will be dragged to the brinks of hellfire, those who will be dragged to the brinks of hellfire are who? Are people who were like cattle in their understanding and in the sense that they did not use their minds. وَلَقَدْ ذَرَأْنَا لِجَهَنَّمَ كَثِيرًا مِنَ الْجِنِّ وَالْإِنسِ لَهُمْ قُلُوبٌ لَا يَفْقَهُونَ بِهَا. Right? Their minds did little to further them. Because why? What is the word for mind in Arabic? What's the word for mind? What is it? Aql. What is the aql supposed to do? لِأَنَّهُ يَعْقِلُ صَاحِبَهُ. The mind's supposed to hold me back. The mind is supposed to give me some weight. The mind is supposed to make me a person of depth, right? In everything I do. So that's one of the things in the Quranic discourse. The other thing in the Quranic discourse on knowledge is وَفَوْقَ كُلِّ ذِي عِلْمٍ عَلِيمٍ. No matter how much I know, there's someone who knows a lot more. No matter how much I know, there's someone who knows more. Part of this discourse on knowledge in Islam and in the Islamic tradition is, it is from the cradle to the grave. اطلب العلم من المهدي إلى اللحد. From the cradle to the grave. And there's a lot of details in this that we will not go over. And one of the signs of the hour that the Prophet ﷺ tells us about is that there will be a rise of ignorance and a fall for knowledge, right? إِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يَقْبِضُ الْعِلْمَ انْتِزَاعًا يَنْتَزِعُهُ مِنَ النَّاسِ. Allah doesn't strip knowledge from the hearts of people. But knowledge starts to fade and disappear when people of knowledge begin to pass away. حَتَّى إِذَا لَمْ يُبْقِ عَالِمًا, right? حَتَّى إِذَا لَمْ يُبْقِ عَالِمًا اتَّخَذَ النَّاسُ رُؤُوسًا جُهَالًا. When there are no people who are true people of knowledge and guidance, people will take leaders who are ignorant, and they'll be asked, and they will answer with ignorance, and they will be misguided, and they'll misguide others, right? So these are one of the signs of the hour. The rise of ignorance, right, is one of the signs of the Day of Judgment, as the Prophet ﷺ tells us in another hadith, إِنَّ بَيْنَ يَدَيِ السَّاعَةِ لَأَيَّامًا يَنْزِلُ فِيهَا الْجَهْلُ وَيُرْفَعُ فِيهَا الْعِلْمُ. Before the Day of Judgment, there are going to be years where jahl and ignorance becomes prevalent and dominant, and knowledge becomes scarce. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to forgive us and protect us from that, right? And there's another even scarier hadith when it tells us one of the signs of the hour is that knowledge is going to be distorted and tainted. The Prophet ﷺ, he says in the hadith, how will you be if you guys do not enjoin good and forbid evil? So they asked the Prophet ﷺ, will that really happen? Will we not enjoin good and forbid evil? Will there be no one to do that? The Prophet ﷺ said, worse than that will happen. So then they asked the Prophet ﷺ, what could be worse than this? The Prophet ﷺ said, كيف بكم إذا أمرتم بالمنكر ونهيتم عن المعروف. How will you be if you were to tell people to do the most deplorable and horrible and heinous things, you were to command them to do wrongdoing, and you were to prohibit them from doing what's good, right? The people who are doing what's right will be seen as criminals. The people who are betraying will be seen as honest. The people who are honest will be seen as treacherous, right? Treacherous. They'll be seen as terrorists. They'll be seen as extremists, right? That's what they'll be seen as. And indeed, this has come to pass. So this was all relating to the first section. But now, if we look at the second section, or part 1 on acts of obedience, if you look at your book, one of the unique things that we see here in what he does, and I'm on page 24 and 25, if you want to follow along. One of the unique things that we find that he does here is he always gives this spiritual twist to every act of worship. Even things that seem mundane, like making wudu, or doing ghusl, or sleeping, things that seem like routine things, he gives them a spiritual twist to them. He says the following. He says, know that the commandments of Allah Most High are either obligatory or voluntary. اعلم أن أوامر الله تعالى فرائض ونوافل فالفرض رأس المال. He says, and this is beautiful, the fard is actually your greatest capital. The obligatory acts constitute the capital by which salvation is attained. The voluntary acts are the profit by which are reached the high levels of success, right? النفل هو الربح وبه الفوز بالدرجات. Look, this is a way to understand it, right? My رأس مال, my capital, right, is the fard, right? Meaning that the best thing that I could possibly draw closer to Allah Azza wa Jalla through is the fard. Know this, Ramadan's coming in right now. He's giving me direction. What is he telling me here? He's telling me here, don't think for a second that when you're doing a fard act, an obligatory act, it's ever like a recommended act. No, fard is superior. Right? So when Ramadan comes in, if I'm spending the full night doing taraweeh, and then I'm missing one of the fara'id in the masjid. Which one is greater? Ramadan is actually the biggest reminder of how it's easy to lose sight of priorities when it comes to the journey to Allah. Everyone magnifies and highlights what in Ramadan in terms of prayers? Taraweeh, right? Even though it is actually, it's a virtuous, don't not misunderstand, it's a very virtuous thing. But it's actually second tier in terms of priorities of Ramadan. Greatest priority of Ramadan, fasting. Second greatest priority of Ramadan, the fara'id, every fard act, right? The salawat count as one. The way I govern, the way I talk, the things I do, all that it is. Why? That's why the Prophet ﷺ, what did he say? Giving us guidance on Ramadan. That when someone fights with you or curses you while you're fasting, then be very careful about how you respond and react, because your response to this is part of your obligation. You need to make sure that you maintain. A sin in Ramadan is not like a sin outside of Ramadan. They're not the same, right? A sin in Ramadan is not like a sin outside of Ramadan, right? Sorry, I lost my chain of thought. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. فَإِنْ سَابَّهُ أَحَدٌ أَوْ شَاتَمَهُ فَلْيَقُلْ إِنِّي امْرُؤٌ صَائِمٌ. That's what the Prophet ﷺ said. If someone curses you, argues with you while you're fasting, you want to know what you should be doing, what is your fard? Control your tongue. That's your fard while you're fasting. Control your tongue. Make sure you control yourself from haram, because if you do a haram during Shahr al-Siyam, it's not like a haram any other time, right? Like imagine this, smoking, halal or haram. Smoking, halal or haram? Haram. All right. Imagine I'm not gonna fast. I'm not gonna smoke all day. Why? Because I'm fasting. But then I'm gonna break my fast on a cigarette. Did I achieve the meaning of the month of fasting? I broke my fast on a cigarette, and then I smoked another cigarette right outside the masjid before I went inside to pray Taraweeh. Right? Good sense of priorities? Oh, no, missing out. Now, of course, it's not to beat anyone on the head. May Allah better us all. May Allah forgive us all. But truly, this is how I'm being taught to think about things, right? وَالنَّفْلُ هُوَ الرِّبْحِ. All right? So then what does he go on to say? He mentions the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, the hadith Qudsi. مَا تَقَرَّبَ إِلَيَّ الْمُتَقَرِّبُونَ بِمِثْلِ أَدَاءِ مَا افْتَرَضْتُهُ عَلَيْهِمْ وَلَا يَزَالُ الْعَبْدُ يَتَقَرَّبُ إِلَيَّ بِالنَّوَافِلِ حَتَّى أُحِبَّهُ. My servant continues to draw closer to me until he gains my love. No one misunderstand. The voluntary acts are my means to Allah's love. Is that virtuous and good? Or is that something that's extra cherry on the top? No. I'm a sheikh. You're going to get to Allah's love. I want Allah's love. We all want Allah's love. So this is inspiring us to do more nawafil, not less nawafil. But while I'm doing those more nawafil, let me also make sure that I'm clear on the fard that I owe, and I won't be negligent on that, right? So this is what he says to us here. So on page 24, if you're reading in the English, 25 in the Arabic, he says, وَلَن تَصِلَ أَيُّهَا الطَّالِبِ إلى القيام بأوامر الله تعالى إلا بمراقبة قلبك وجوارحك في لحظاتك وأنفاسك من حين تمسي إلى حين تصبح. So he says here, and you, dear seeker, will not be able to rise to carry out the commands of Allah Most High until you monitor your heart and limbs in your every moment and every breath from the time you wake up until the time you sleep. So he says then, know that Allah, blessed and Most High, is closely observing your innermost heart. That's how he starts the thought on acts of worship. Know this, as Allah says, يَعْلَمُ خَائِنَةَ الْأَعْيُنِ وَمَا تُخْفِي الصُّدُورِ. He knows the treachery of the eyes and what is concealed in the breasts. What does the treachery of the eyes mean? He knows those very subtle things that the people directly in your presence don't even realize. He knows those very subtle things that no one around you is aware of. He knows it. Allah is aware of it. As you're approaching obedience, always remind yourself of this, right? Now, as we go on, look at what he says on the next page, page 26. Therefore, O destitute one, cultivate a deep courtesy with the divine. Why does he talk like that to us? فَتَأَدَّبْ أَيُّهَا الْمِسْكِينَ. It seems like such an aggressive way to speak to the... Who's he talking to, by the way? Is he speaking to the reader? No, Imam Ghazali is bigger than this. He's not speaking to the reader. He's speaking to himself and teaching us to talk to ourselves, right? He's speaking to himself and teaching us to talk to ourselves. Therefore, O destitute one, why does he say this? Because I am inclined to have a very good opinion of myself. We're human beings, it's natural. Not everyone's like this. And that's why it's important to realize that each person needs a custom plan. Needs a custom plan in their spiritual journey to Allah Azza wa Jal. I need to be very aware of my nafs. Most people will be inclined to have very good opinions of themselves, and that's what he's taming here. But some people don't have this problem. They have the opposite problem. They have very, very, very bad opinions of themselves to the extent that it's not healthy the way they observe themselves. They have this idea of self-loathing that is so disproportionate that it makes them fall into despair. That I'm so bad and so awful that Allah will never forgive me. So just temper this understanding as you see this here with that. He's speaking to the majority. Where people would be too inclined to have good opinions of themselves, I need to make sure that I hold myself in check. Don't have a good opinion of yourself. Realize that you're very needy. And it's okay. I'm liberated by my neediness, right? There's some people who are scared of the idea of being needy. I don't want to be needy. I could do everything by myself. I don't need anyone to help me. Why do they feel like that? Because they're emotionally wounded. Because they tried getting help from other people before and people let them down. So they don't want to need anybody. But on the spiritual path, look, I get that. Being needy to human beings is very disgracing sometimes, because human beings sometimes they won't have the kindness, the compassion, they won't have the care and the consideration to really, really help you while you're in your moment of need. But Allah Azza wa Jal, my neediness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the most liberating thing in my life. So that's why when we're reading this, remember that. He says, cultivate a deep courtesy with the divine in your outer self as well as in your inner self. The courtesy and bearing of a humble, erring slave in the presence of his supreme, all-powerful master. Right? تأدب العبد الذليل المذنب في حضرة الجبار القهار واجتهد ألا يراك مولاك حيث نهاك. This is a hadith from the Prophet ﷺ. Make your greatest effort that he not find you present where he has forbidden you to be, nor find you absent from where he has commanded you to be. Right? So you see, this is an experiential side of reading this book. If you really want to benefit from ibadat, then approach them with this mindset and this attitude. Look at what he says about the etiquette of waking from sleep. Adab al-istiqadh min al-nawm. He says, when you awake from sleep, try to be awake before dawn, and let the first words in your heart, on your tongue, be the remembrance of Allah Most High. And look at what he says here. Internalizing dhikr. This is a beautiful thing to train our children to do, to train ourselves to do. Alhamdulillah. الذي أحيانا بعدما أماتنا وإليه النشور. Saying these adhkar actually really can change our lives, right? If we change them, if we say them, they give us structure, by the way. That's one of the things that I need to, part of the spiritual path needs structure. Salah gives me structure. Ramadan gives me structure. What do I mean structure? One of the blessings of Allah on this ummah is that He made Ramadan fard. Because if Ramadan was not mandatory, then most people would be disinclined to actually do it for the full duration. Right? If I didn't have to fast, the second phase of fast, I don't know if you guys know this, but the obligation of fasting went through phases. The second phase of these is the optional fast, right? So the companions had the choice, either fast or give fidya. And fidya, very low amount. Imagine if you had this choice coming into this Ramadan. Alhamdulillah, we don't have this choice. Alhamdulillah, we don't. Imagine if you had a choice, fast a day or pay $15. How many people are going to choose to pay $15 instead of fasting the day? A whole lot. And I can't really say for sure that I wouldn't make that choice, right? We're human beings, right? Oh man, I get withdrawals and I get headaches, right? Some people, the biggest fear when Ramadan is close by are the withdrawals that they're going to get from not having caffeine in the morning. I'm going to get headache. This is my biggest fear. Oh man, no coffee for a month. It's going to be a miserable month, right? No, a'udhu billah, inshallah, it won't be a miserable month. But anyway, structure in spirituality is critical. That's why you have at every single juncture, when you wake up, when you go to sleep, when you go to the bathroom, when you pray, when you finish praying, when you fast, when you break your fast, at every single juncture, there is this ibadah that gives us structure. People need structure in their journey to Allah Azza wa Jal. It is one of the most attractive things that you find in our deen. Imagine if the only thing you really had to do on a weekly basis was attend Friday prayers. Imagine if that's what Islam became. Like the special day that we have as Muslims is Friday. Like some other religions, they have another special day. That's our special day. One day in the week. The rest of the week, do whatever you want. On this day, come back. Right? Imagine if that was the case. Oh man, it would be so hard to actually conform to the teachings of Islam. It is a blessing from Allah Azza wa Jal that He's given us structure through ibadah. Brothers and sisters, we should not underestimate this blessing. Right? So, these two paragraphs, brothers and sisters, about the du'as that he says, read these. I'm looking at page 26, by the way. You see there where that indentation is? You see where the indentation is? Those two paragraphs? I encourage you, read these on your own. Pause from all distractions. Read it with an open heart. Do this later. Put in your notes there. Go back. Read this with an open heart. On your own time. Read these two paragraphs. Right? The two paragraphs with the indentation. Read those adhkar that Islam teaches us to say when we first wake up. Islam teaches us mindfulness. Wow. To the highest degree. Thereafter, when you get dressed, make your intention. I'm looking at the bottom of 26. Make your intention obedience to Allah's commands by covering yourself appropriately. Now, Islam wants me to be mindful of Allah Azza wa Jal in every way. When I'm considering emerging from my house, let me make that consideration as a brother and as a sister, by the way. What should I be wearing that's most pleasing to my Creator? How should I be presenting myself outside that will bring me closer to Allah's rida? All right, he says, beware lest your intention in wearing your clothes be to display before people and you suffer loss, right? So then it's true priorities, right? People, they'll invest thousands and thousands of dollars on clothes. For what? So they could feel comfortable. They could probably spend a whole lot less if they're really looking to feel comfortable. But a lot of the times, dressing up is about the designer, the names, the colors, the presentation. And it's all about the outward. What he's teaching us to do, focus more on the inward, you're going to find your attitude towards everything changes. What's the inward? What's inside my heart? Let me focus on that. What is my true priority when I go out in my day? Right? What is my true priority when I'm about to go outside, get in my car, go to school or go to work or go somewhere else? What's my true priority? It could be what the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ says, كُلُّ النَّاسِ يَغْدُو فَبَائِعُ نَفْسَهُ فَمُعْتِقُهَا أَوْ مُوبِقُهَا. My true priority could be realizing that the Prophet ﷺ, he says, everyone goes out and does things in their day that make them or break them. Things that will raise their status up by Allah Azza wa Jal very high, or things that will make them come crashing down spiritually. That could be my thought process. I should do that. Because once I step forth out of my house, I don't know if I'll ever come back to it. I know for some people it's a depressing way to think about life, but for us it's not a depressing way. It's a reality. It's a reality that inspires me, doesn't depress me. When I walk outside today, I don't know if I'll ever come back again to this house that I care so much about. Spends thousands of dollars getting this teapot and these cups and these plates and this machine and that gadget and fixing up these tiles and so on and so forth. When I go out in the day, I'll never forget. I'll share with you two scenes. I know there's very limited time, but I'll try to share whatever I can. One scene recently, this very profound reminder. A young boy, 7 years old. I shared it in the masjid here. 7 years old, young boy. His school bus was outside waiting for him. And his parents were telling him, it's time to go, it's time to go. He had a pancake in his mouth. He stepped outside of his house. He began choking on it. And his moment to leave this dunya was right then and there. He didn't even get to his school bus. He passed away. May Allah have mercy on him. May Allah be with his parents. This was only about a month or two ago. Less than 2 months ago. That's one scene. I remember another brother sharing with me reflection after his father passed away. His father passed away from COVID. May Allah have mercy on him. And he says, I remember the last time I saw him, I was in the garage and he was getting into his car, going to the hospital just to get checked out because he was very sick and it was getting worse from COVID. And he said to his son, I'll see you in a few days, inshallah. And he got into the car, and that's the last time he ever had a chance to have physical contact with his father. Because after that, his father got to the hospital, things got worse, he went into a coma, he was intubated, he passed away from COVID. May Allah have mercy on him. But really, as being mindful, that's why Islam teaches us, be mindful. Be mindful. Be present of thought and present spiritually. You want to come here? All right, be present spiritually, right? So this is what he's trying to tell us on this page. Beware lest your intention in wearing your clothes be to display before people and you suffer loss. All right. Then he tells us about what you should do when you're going out of the bathroom. All right. When you go to the lavatory, enter. Enter with your left foot and leave with your right foot. Do not take inside anything that has on it Allah's name or the Messenger's name, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And do not enter with a bare head or bare feet. These are all etiquettes and sunnah. And he mentions, by the way, countless of them in this book. We're not going to be able to go through those. But look, there's two ways to read this. What's the fiqhi ruling of taking Quran with you inside the bathroom? Like, of course, like, why would someone do this? Like, imagine this. Like, you have a mushaf with you. It's in your backpack. You need to go to the bathroom. You're not at home. So, what's the ruling of taking Quran inside the bathroom? According to many jurists, they'll tell you it's makruh. What does makruh mean? It means it's something offensive. Something you shouldn't do. But if you did it, you're not going to get sins for it. That's a fiqhi, juristic way to read this. But what he's telling you from a spiritual lens is, have more reverence for Allah and His Prophet. Make sure that when you go to the bathroom, you remember Allah's name and you enter with your left, you exit with your right. Don't take anything that has dhikr on it. This is all from a spiritual standpoint. You see the difference between the fiqhi and the spiritual? Fiqh will tell you, if you did it, no problem. Or not a big problem. Problem, but not a big problem. Makruh. And then the spiritual discourse would be, have more reverence to Allah and His Prophet. To ever do something in that space that is unbecoming towards Allah and His Prophet. Why? Is relieving. All right, so look at this. Then he tells us so many adab. When you enter the bathroom, you should say a dua. When you leave the bathroom, you should say a dua. And he mentions the details of all of this. Like, for example, وَقُلْ عِنْدَ الدُّخُولِ بِسْمِ اللَّهِ أَعُوذُ بِاللَّهِ مِنَ الرِّجْسِ وَالنَّجَسِ الْخَبِيثِ الْمُخْبِثِ الشَّيْطَانِ الرَّجِيمِ. Right? Say these words. And he mentions to us a dua. In the name of Allah, I seek refuge in Allah from the filth and the impurity and from the defiled one who defiles, Satan or shaitan, the accursed. Right? And then he tells us what you should say when you leave. Say غُفْرَانَكَ. Say, oh Allah, I seek your forgiveness. It's very interesting. Like, when I leave the bathroom, I should say, oh Allah, forgive me. Think about that. Just think about it for a moment. Oh Allah, forgive me. Like, what, did I just commit a sin when I went to the bathroom? Like, someone might say that, right? What, did I just commit a sin? Ghufranak for what? What did I do that was wrong? What did I do that was wrong? Why are you telling me to ask forgiveness? But the believer doesn't understand it like this. The believer understands that that seeking Allah's forgiveness is something that actually always stays with me in all of my stages. It's actually something that continuously cleanses my soul. Whether I'm in the beginning of the path or the middle of the path or the end of the path to Allah Azza wa Jal, no matter how great I become, quote unquote, I will continue to cleanse my soul by seeking His forgiveness. I'll continue to be mindful of Allah Azza wa Jal in the times where people would, the last thought on your mind, like right now, like you're leaving the bathroom, like honestly, the last thought on your mind, unless you're someone who's spiritually inclined, would be to say a word of dhikr. So, oh Allah, forgive me. Like, why? Right? SubhanAllah, don't you see that we also say this in the end of salah, right? After we finish salah, what do we say? Astaghfirullah, astaghfirullah, astaghfirullah. I just did an act of worship. You're telling me to seek forgiveness? This is all part of the mindset and the attitude that's being shaped by ibadat, right? The last thing that people would be inclined to think about when they're leaving the bathroom is seeking Allah's forgiveness. What would they be more inclined to doing? Where are the wet wipes? Where's the hand sanitizer? How can I avoid touching the door handle because that's very disgusting? And whatever. Be thinking about some tangible worldly aspect of it. But these things are critical times where we find the Prophet ﷺ teaches us to be very spiritual in our mindset. Be very aware. All right, and one of the things that I want to say here, look, is you'll find in this book a lot of adhkar and ad'iyah, and some people who are enamored with finding the source of things would say, where's the source of this? Where's the hadith? Where's the hadith? Did this scholar just make up this dua? Know this. I'm just going to give you a disclaimer that our scholars have, took great liberty with experiencing dhikr and dua. And they would add adhkar and ad'iyah as they feel like it made their heart feel. It's not because they love innovations, right? And it's very unfortunate that we find ourselves in a time where people who are absolutely bankrupt in terms of knowledge would say something like about Imam Ghazali, that Imam Ghazali, he used weak hadiths or fabricated hadiths, or he didn't really understand hadith. Ya Allah, Hujjatul Islam didn't understand hadith. Inta Abu Google, you understand hadith, the Sheikh Google, you understand hadith? Inta, the one who looks up a few words here and there and you find, this hadith isn't sahih or da'if or fabricated. You're the one who understands hadith? You have too good of an opinion of yourself, akhi. So anyway, this is something I need to understand about this book. That I will learn adhkar that Imam Ghazali found sources for or felt experientially that they are fulfilling. So anyway, the emphasis on the outward cleanliness. Did I give you guys a good reason as to why we seek Allah's forgiveness when we're leaving the bathroom? I would say no. What is a good reason to understand? Islam teaches me that when I'm cleaning the outward, I should also be cleaning the inward. When I'm making wudu and washing, a lot of people who don't understand the meanings behind worship, they get confused. Why on earth would I need to make wudu? I just took a shower a half an hour ago. I'm 10 times cleaner than those people who were in the desert 1,000 years ago sweating and having such scents and aromas. Why do I need to make wudu? Why do I need to wash my hands? My hands are cleaner than ever, right? Some people who understand wudu like that, when I'm cleaning the outward, I'm actually cleaning the inward. Islam teaches me that the outward purity is a means to the inward purity. You understand this? So why do I say ghufranak? There's an emphasis on cleanliness in our deen, outwardly and inwardly. What's the purpose of being clean on the outside if I am dirty on the inside? That's what Islam tells us. What's the purpose of being clean on the outside? I just cleaned myself on the outside. I just finished the bathroom. You know what? I'm going to remind myself to be clean on the inside. Ghufranak. Good reason? Good reason? What do you think? I think it's a good reason. Wallahu alam. But anyway, so this is... then the other thing here, look, the other thing, he mentions to us a lot of things. He says, don't expose your awrah fully in the bathroom. Be very, conceal your private parts very efficiently. Don't face the direction of the qibla or put your back towards the direction of the qibla. This is all from what? The reverence of the symbols of Allah. Right, having reverence. Why are these things? Well, first off, these things are mentioned in hadiths. That's why. And there's a lot of fiqhi details that we're not going to get into. But what's the meaning behind it? The meaning behind these things is when I show reverence to the minor things that people perceive as insignificant, guess what? I'm going to be in a better position to show reverence to the bigger things. Right? Reverence to Allah's symbols, I want to show that. What is reverence to Allah's symbols? Ta'zeem sha'airillah. That's what we're saying. Reverence to Allah's symbols. ذَلِكَ وَمَنْ يُعَظِّمْ شَعَائِرَ اللَّهِ فَإِنَّهَا مِنْ تَقْوَى الْقُلُوبِ. Remember this, the next time you come to the masjid and you're sitting on the back wall. This masjid, because it has a very long back wall, people are tempted to sit against the back wall and, they don't want to come forward. So, but anyway, that's a different story. But anyway, sitting on the back wall, and I have my feet sticking out like this, facing the Qibla. I'm just relaxing, and I'm, scrolling my phone. Or even worse, I have a Quran in my lap, right by my private area, and I'm showing no regard. People do this? Yeah, of course, people do this. People show no care and no regard for how they hold the Quran. Facing with my feet towards the Qibla. What is this? It's a very disrespectful way to the Qibla of Allah Azza wa Jal. No, even in the way I sit, I'm going to be reverent. If I shouldn't face the Qibla in this disrespectful way, while I'm in the bathroom, I shouldn't face it in the masjid. When my feet are sticking out towards the Qibla either, right? When I care about Allah's symbols that much, then guess what? I'm going to find taqwa develop in my heart a whole lot more. Like if we had a Quran thrown on the floor right here. If I'm a person who has taqwa in their heart, it will pain me to see a Quran thrown on the floor right there. I would not be able to sit down comfortably without picking up that Quran and putting it in somewhere very respectful. That's a good sign of Iman in the heart. That's how I should be reading these pages. And that's how I should be caring about, some people, they say, well, the fiqh is too technical. Why do they care about these minor things? Look at this slide. We went away from the slides for a little bit. Look at this. A cause for punishment. أكثر عذاب القبر من البول. Prophet ﷺ says in the hadith, most of the torment of the grave is because of the way that people cleanse themselves in the bathroom. There's another hadith, the Prophet ﷺ passed by two graves. This is a famous hadith. Many people know this hadith. And the Prophet ﷺ, of course, because he knew the unseen, what did he say? He said they're being punished, and they're not being punished for something that people perceive as severe. They're very severe things, of course, obviously. But the people don't, وَمَا يُعَذَّبَانِ فِي كَبِيرٍ يعني لا يراه الناس كبيرا. People don't see these things as major. What were these two things? One of them, and this is an awful thing, a'udhu billah. One of the things that could burn down a civilization, namima. One of the sins that's causing this person to be punished in the grave is that this person would go about spreading injurious gossip that would sever relationships between people. This is namima, that causing people to be divided, right? The other one, كَانَ لَا يَسْتَبْرِئُ مِنْ بَوْلِهِ. The other person would never efficiently clean themselves after going to the bathroom, right? So these are causes for punishment. In fact, purity is a means to Allah's love. Look at this ayah in the next slide. What does it say? فِيهِ رِجَالٌ يُحِبُّونَ أَن يَتَطَهَّرُوا وَاللَّهُ يُحِبُّ الْمُطَّهِّرِينَ. Allah loves those who are pure. Inwardly or outwardly, what do you think the answer to that is? After we just discussed what we discussed. Allah loves those who are pure. Inwardly or outwardly? Answer? Both. Very good. You're all following along with me. Inwardly and outwardly. And being pure outwardly is our means to being pure inwardly as Muslims, right? That's why an-nadhafa min al-iman. What is this? Connecting the inside and the outside. When you're clean on the outside, it's going to help you be clean on the inside. Help you, but you need to take that step, of course. There's tons of people who are like very, very clean, but they don't believe in Allah, right? So it is my means. And that's why the shaitan, he goes towards places that are very dirty and filthy, right? All right, so that will go on. So these are hadith that you could read on your own that tell us about the etiquettes of relieving oneself. They're in the PowerPoint, and they're also in the book. The book tells us about these things, right? And so these are all hadith. Allahumma inni a'udhu bika min al-khubuthi wal khaba'ith. And the Prophet ﷺ would even wash his private areas 3 times. The Prophet ﷺ, he said in the hadith, be on your guard against 2 things which provokes cursing. So اتقوا اللاعنين. So قالوا وما اللاعنين يا رسول الله وما اللاعنان يا رسول الله. What are these? So the Prophet ﷺ said, the one that evokes cursing or provokes cursing is the one who uses the bathroom in watering places and in the shade. Why on earth would people do this? This is for a different time period. Mostly. Well, you still might find some of the... What would this mostly apply to today? It's not going to be human beings pooping on trees. It's going to be people with dogs, right? So, but it's the same idea. Don't defile public places. This is what Islam teaches us. We're not a people, and this is unfortunate actually. So we here we can't even imagine, or why on earth would someone do this? If you've been to our countries back home, you'll understand better what this is about, right? If you've been visited our countries, unfortunately, not all the countries, some countries are clean, but some of our Muslim countries, you will find that we do not exemplify nadhafa as we should as an ummah. So this is one of the things that perhaps we'll find in our country here, more thought about than in some of our Muslim countries, unfortunately, where you'd find trash on sides of roads. You'll even find people urinating or using the bathroom on sides of roads. You'll find urine or feces or whatever it is, prevalent in public places. And of course, it's not to, look, one of the things, when you look at these things through a maddi lens, a very worldly lens, if I don't have a spiritual reason that would drive me to this end, then what? Cleanliness is going to be a luxury of the people who have the luxury to think about these things. That's the other thing side of this. Poverty sometimes strips people of the luxury of thinking about the finer things, right? I'm worried about finding food for today. I don't have the timeshare or the capacity to think about the garbage that's on the side of the road, unless I have a spiritual purpose for it. Because it is possible that you would find someone who's impoverished, yet extremely clean, because they're doing it, what? From a place of iman. An-nadhafa min al-iman. They're doing it because of love for the Prophet, love for the Quran, love for Islam. But truly, that's the other side to this. Poverty is what triggers those realities from a maddi, worldly standpoint. So this is important to keep in mind. Wallahu a'lam. And there's other things. So, of course, this is, just to be fair and to be honest, you don't need to go very far to find very dirty public bathrooms. You'll find them in the most posh parts of our country, the malls, the airports, the مش عارف إيه. You'll find enough filth in those bathrooms that would make you dread wanting to enter them. And one of the beautiful things that you'll find is people who get exposed to decent, true Islamic values and culture are actually so amazed and mesmerized by how clean Muslims are. I actually heard this, that it happened. I wasn't planning to talk about the World Cup today. By the way, apparently the FIFA World Cup is coming to New Jersey. Do they call it the World Cup FIFA as well? They call it, right? Yeah, I'm not a soccer fan. But apparently it's coming to New Jersey in a few years. So it's going to be in MetLife Stadium. You guys heard about that? So anyway, it happened in a Muslim country the last time it happened. And Westerners, Europeans, Americans, were amazed at how clean Muslims are and how clean our bathrooms are. When Islamic values are properly presented and represented, then we find that even those who are most well off in a material world will be amazed at how clean Islam teaches Muslims to be. Right? You guys with me? So that's truly the case. We should never understand it as a West versus the rest of the world type of thing. That's truly not the case. There's plenty of filth in America, inwardly and outwardly, unfortunately. Anyway, that's another. So adab al-wudu. Adab al-wudu. When you look at the next page, page 31, look. Islam teaches us, brothers and sisters, to find spiritual enrichment through routine acts. It's very important to think about this. Look at this. Upon finishing the process of cleaning yourself, say, O my Lord, purify my heart from hypocrisy and keep my private parts from wrong actions. Look at this beautiful, the Prophet ﷺ said, this is a dua that we learn, Allahumma tahhir qalbi min al-nifaq wa hassan farji min al-fawahish. Right? When I'm cleaning myself, this mundane act, I'm reminding myself, I need to purify it from hypocrisy. I need to protect my private parts from doing the wrongful acts. Right? So Islam teaches me this, finding spiritual enrichment through mundane acts. In fact, we learn this there's a hadith, the Prophet ﷺ, he was with the companions and he just put on his footgear. And he said to them that Jannah is closer to one of you than the seams of his footgear, the seams of his shoe. الجنة أقرب إلى أحدكم من شراك نعله. And then he said, وَالنَّارُ مِثْلُ ذَلِكَ. And hellfire is just as close as well, right? Closer than the seams of my shoe. Allahu Akbar. Why is this so special? Why would the Prophet say something like that? It is about taking routine things, mundane things, and let them trigger your mind for reflection. This mind here, brothers and sisters, if utilized, can lead the human being to such greatness. And if abandoned, if rejected, it could cause the person great ruin, right? This mind, if I shut it off, I'm going to miss out on what Iman's all about. The whole message of the Quran is about waking up the mind. If the mind wakes up, it'll give the heart good advice. That's basically what it is. The spiritual dimension of wudu, he tells us about this. Look at this. This is a beautiful one. It's been narrated on the account of Abu Hurairah. That I'm reading on page 30, by the way. So there's two hadiths that he mentions. One is a prayer before which one has used a toothstick is better than 70 prayers without having used the toothstick. That's in Bayhaqi. He mentions another hadith on the account of Abu Hurairah that the Prophet ﷺ said, were I not afraid that I would cause hardship on my community, I would have ordered them to use the toothstick before every prayers. What's a toothstick, right? Miswak, siwak, siwak, or you know what, toothbrush. Does the toothbrush count as a toothstick? Yeah, it does. It's fine. No problem. The whole idea is brushing your teeth before you pray. Why do I need to brush my teeth before I pray? Why do I need to brush my teeth before I pray? This is reminding us of what? Reverence of who? Who said that? Reverence of the angels. Right? The Prophet ﷺ, he says in the hadith, الْمَلَائِكَةُ تَتَأَذَّى مِمَّا يَتَأَذَّى مِنْهُ بَنُو آدَمَ. So as I'm even standing in my position in prayer, I am fully connected to the spiritual dimension. Right? Any of you guys see malaika in here? Any of you? We're not meant to see them. If one of you could see them, it's either that, mashallah, you're a very spiritual person, or something else is wrong. But one of the two things, you're either a very spiritual, special person, and may Allah make those people among us, or something else is wrong. But the point is, are there angels here right now? You better believe it. You better believe there are angels in this room right now. Why? Because it's a masjid. Min masajidillahi azza wa jal. And we know from the Prophet ﷺ that the angels, they go around searching for the masajid and searching for the gatherings of remembrance. There are angels right here. So someone might be sitting in their seat right now, and there's an angel sitting right next to them, right? And putting their wings on their sides, right? Right? And the angels spread their wings for talib al-ilm, for the seeker of knowledge, because of how pleasant it is what they're seeking. There are angels right here. And you know what? I should be very respectful in the way I conduct myself in the presence of angels. What is Islam teaching me by that? I am in this physical world, but I'm connected to the spiritual world. I am in alam al-shahada, the physical world, but the observed world, but my qalb is marboot bi-alam al-ghayb. My heart is connected to the unseen realm, right? When I pray, the Prophet ﷺ is teaching me, I need to be mindful of the angels. I need to be mindful of the angels. Meaning that I should not come with a garlic-filled mouth to the masjid, because it's going to bother human beings, and it's also going to bother the angels. Unfortunately, I think there's shawarma coming, and I think it has garlic in it. Not meant to stop any of you guys. Well, if we all have garlic, then we won't get bothered by the garlic. No, I'm just kidding. Go ahead, eat the garlic as you like, if you like, when you like. But I need to be thinking about these realities when I'm praying. That's what Islam teaches me to do. And he mentioned so many more adab there. Look, the next page 30 and page 31. It's telling me in detail how I should be doing every position of wudu. It is so much detail, it will tire your mind. I'm not going to tire your minds right now. I'm not going to read through it. It will tire your mind. Put your hand like this and thoroughly wash that and touch that. All these kinds of things. And put your fingers in your ear like this and the back of your ear like that. And then all these things, these motions as you're doing wudu is for the purpose of isbaghul wudu. The Prophet ﷺ, he teaches us how virtuous isbaghul wudu is. You guys know what isbaghul wudu means? What does isbaghul wudu mean? Huh? Thoroughly, perfectly, you perfect your wudu. Isbaghul wudu'i ala al-makarih. The Prophet ﷺ tells us it's a source of great reward. To perfect your wudu is actually a matter of great virtue. When you're making wudu and you already had wudu, what is it? It's nur upon nur. Nurun ala nur. Right? Light upon light. If you make wudu upon wudu. Right? So look at this. And then after you look at I want you to look at the middle of page 32. Oh, by the way, what time is it? 2:38. Okay. 2:38. I'm going to be stopping soon, inshallah. Yeah, I'm going to be stopping soon, inshallah. But here, let's look at page 238. Sorry, 32. What am I saying? Not page 230. All right. In the middle of the page, he says, make the water reach the 4 places where hair grows. The eyebrows, the mustache, the eyelashes, the cheeks. You guys see where I'm reading? The 3rd paragraph on page 32? You see that? That is what lies in front of the ears from the beginning of the beard. The water must also reach the roots of the hair of a thin beard, though not a thick beard. All right. But do not omit wetting a thick beard by passing your fingers through it. As you wash your face, say, all right, this is what we want to focus on now. All right, he mentioned a whole bunch of details on how you should wash your beards, which only applies to half the audience. But then he says after that, O my Lord, make radiant my face with your light on the day you make radiant the faces of your friends. And do not shroud my face with darkness on the day you shroud the faces of your enemies with darkness. Right? What does it say in the Arabic? He says, Allahumma bayyid wajhi binurika yawma tabyaddu wujuhu awliyaik wa la tusawwid wajhi bidhulumatika yawma taswaddu wujuhu a'daik. What is this? This links us back to a beautiful hadith of the Prophet ﷺ. When I wash my face in wudu, what's emerging from my face? The sins that were committed with the face. When I wash my arms, what's emerging from my arms? The sins that were committed with the arms. Right? When I wash my feet, what's emerging from my feet? The sins that were committed. So actually, the process of wudu is this spiritual experience that's meant to clean me on the inside before the outside. Right? And that's why he's saying all of these ad'iyah, all these dua. When I'm washing my right hand, what am I supposed to say? Oh Allah, give me my book in my right hand. All right? And that's what he says in the next paragraph. Oh Allah, give me my book of deeds in my right hand and judge me with leniency. As you wash the left arm, say, oh Allah, verily I seek refuge with you from you giving me my book of deeds in my left hand. Right? Allahumma a'tini kitabi biyamini wa hasibni hisaban yasira. Allahumma inni a'udhu bika min an tu'tiyani kitabi bishimali aw min wara'i dhahri. Right? That's what the Arabic means. Right? So it's this spiritual experience, brothers and sisters. I need to start, all of this is about what? Breaking out of being a ritualistic person when it comes to my ibadah. Look, we get this question a lot. How can I have khushu', better khushu' and concentration in my salah? You know how it starts? It starts with perfecting wudu. Better khushu' in salah starts with perfecting wudu. If I approach wudu from this very outward standpoint of view, I'm going to be in the bathroom on one of the sinks, and my friend is right next to me, and I'm splashing water here, splashing water there, splashing water there, and and I'm creating a huge mess for Ridwan to clean later on. And I'm talking to my friend while I'm doing it, and I'm laughing and joking, and I'm in that space, and I'm not even thinking for a second about what I'm doing. Guess what? I missed out on a golden opportunity of focusing in my salah. I want to better focus in salah. Let me start with bettering my wudu. I'll feel it. If I actually start, when I'm preparing myself for Asr and I'm washing my face, and I'm remembering all of the sins that I must have committed with my eyes, with my mouth in the past few hours, all the things I said that I shouldn't have said, all the things I looked at that I shouldn't have looked at. And I'm thinking about my arms, and I'm thinking the things that, the way I use them, sometimes in a way that's displeasing to Allah Azza wa Jal, to take something that doesn't belong to me, to hit someone that I should never put my hands on, or so on and so forth. When I'm thinking of these things as I'm preparing for wudu, then what? It's going to be an extremely spiritual experience. Extremely spiritual experience, right? So that's how we should understand this section that he's saying to us. And with that, one more thing actually. We'll stop at 2:45. By the way, is the food here? The garlic food filled is here? So get yourselves ready to fill your mouths with garlic. Not meant to deter you from eating. No, eat the garlic. It's okay. Anyway, on the next page, page 35, look at what he says. When you have completed the ablution, say, أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت عملت سوءا وظلمت نفسي أستغفرك وأتوب إليك فاغفر لي وتب علي إنك أنت التواب الرحيم اللهم اجعلني من التوابين واجعلني من المتطهرين. This beautiful dua, you see it indented on page 34 for you if you want to read the English. What does he say? Oh Allah, I bear witness that there is no God save you. I have done evil and have wronged my soul. I seek your forgiveness and I turn to you in repentance. Forgive me and accept my repentance. For you are the one who accepts repentance, the merciful. Oh Allah, make me of those who frequently repent and make me of those who purify themselves, right? So what do we take from this? Look, Islam teaches us to internalize spirituality through what? Through three things. Dhikr, remembrance with our tongues. Islam teaches me to internalize spirituality through dhikr, with my tongue, remembrance of Allah. Fikr, thought, with my mind. And fi'l, actions, my motions, my movements. All of these three things, my movements, my thoughts, and my words are all coming together to immerse me with this beautiful sense of spirituality inwardly and outwardly. Inwardly and outwardly. And the last thing he says about wudu, and this is what we'll conclude with, is on page 36. Page 36. He says, this is an important one. This is why I want to say it. This is an important one. He says on the top of page 36, he says, do not wash any limb more than 3 times. Do not pour more water over yourself than necessary. Simply out of mere doubt, for there is a devil called Walhan, who mocks and plays with those who are given to obsessive doubt. Do not perform your ablution with water that has been sitting. All right, so that's a different subject, right? Intrusive thoughts, right? This is a hadith actually. إن للوضوء شيطانا يقال له الولهان فاتقوا وسواس الماء. This hadith is actually in Sunan al-Tirmidhi or Jami' al-Tirmidhi, and there's differing views on its authenticity. However, some scholars have held this is authentic, right? So there is a special shaitan for salah that's in Sahih Muslim. What's his name? What's the shaitan that's dedicated for salah? That's meant to make you think about everything else. What's his name? Yes, Khunzub. La'natullahi alayh. Right? And then there's a special shaitan for wudu. What's his name? He tells us here, Walhan. He makes people succumb to intrusive thoughts. And now, of course, sometimes this might be a whisper from the shaitan for people who don't have a mental health issue. Sometimes it might be a whisper from the shaitan. But sometimes it might be a symptom of a mental health issue. Because sometimes some people are tested with obsessive compulsive disorder, OCD, and it's actually a very difficult thing. It's not because they're sinful in any way or because the shaitan is getting to them in any way, but they are tested with this thing that makes them overthink every little act they do, and Islam doesn't want that for them. And wallahi, I feel for anyone who experiences and struggles with this. Sometimes there are people with their wudu, they struggle so badly with their wudu that they would stay in the bathroom for a very extended period of time, 10, 20 minutes. This is not an exaggeration, by the way. This is not exaggeration. There are people who, because of their condition, their mental health condition, they need to stay for a prolonged period of time repeating wudu and washing and over again. And sometimes people also have the same condition with cleansing themselves and relieving themselves in the bathroom. It causes great difficulty. Now, so they are two separate things. You see that? Just to clarify. Those who don't have this mental health issue, the shaitan is seeking to ruin our spiritual experience by these intrusive thoughts. Those who have the mental health issue are tested, and we ask them, don't ever second guess yourself. Your wudu is the way you do it. That's what Islam wants you to do. Don't come with questions, what if I missed this and what if I didn't do that? No, don't worry about these things. Just do your wudu as is, and inshallah Allah will accept from you. This is what we tell people with intrusive thoughts in general. We tell them, don't second guess yourself. Why? Because ibadah, worship, wasn't meant to be a painful experience for me. It's meant to be a fulfilling one, right? So let's stop here, inshallah. This is the end of this session. And inshallah, we're going to take a 10-minute break just to give you guys enough time to get your food. And you could bring it back to your chairs. We'll start in 10 minutes, inshallah. We're going to do one more